So the first assessment that you're going to do is the shoulder dislocate. And the way that you'll need to do it is grab a piece of tape, whether or not it's athletic tape or masking tape. I have a piece of white athletic tape, so just for this video I went ahead and drew a little black line around it. I'm going to put the webbing of my hand right on that line, and then this other hand I'm going to outstretch as wide as I can to make sure that, that whenever I go overhead my elbows are straight. The limit is going to be whether or not you can keep your elbows straight as you come over and back. So the test itself is just coming over, elbows nice and straight, all the way through, back down, touch your low back, and then come back over, okay? So that would be a successful trial. And I'm this wide. So now I want to inch my thumb in just a little bit, and I'm going to give it another shot. So I'm going to make sure my elbows are nice and straight. I'm going to go over, touch my butt, come back. If I did that successfully, whether or not you're looking in a mirror or just keeping yourself honest, inch in a little bit more and continue until you feel that you have to flex your elbows, or you have to do if you have to do something like this, like where you kind of cheat one side and then the other. I kept my elbow straight, but I still didn't pass the test because I kind of had to cheat here getting it back, okay? So you got to make sure that the web of your hand stays on that line. And then with the other hand, let's say that this is as wide as I could go. If I just hold this hand right here, then I can take a Sharpie and just mark that point right there. And then I can either measure it, or if I have a black Sharpie, then I can just keep that point and I can mark it with SD, which is just shoulder dislocate. So now I know my starting point, my initial point for that exercise right there. It's important to label it because you're going to do 2 other assessments where you're going to be marking this. Now if you're not going to measure and you're going to mark it with a Sharpie, I recommend that at the beginning you use either just the same Sharpie and mark like SD1 for the first time that you do the shoulder dislocate, and then on the second one either mark it SD2 or use a red or a different color just so you can see the difference. The second assessment that you're going to do is a little walk-in. So you can set the PVC pipe down, and then you're going to put your palm just right at the end, or even your fingertips at the end. So if you're really flexible, you might want to just put your fingertips at the end, but for most people it's going to work out that you can just put your palm right at the end of the PVC pipe, just like this. You're going to have your palms completely on the ground, and you're going to have your heels completely on the ground. And you're going to walk them in together until you can't walk them in anymore. My legs are straight as they can be. I can't take another step forward without having to bend my legs a lot, so this is my maximum distance. So now I can stand up. Since I know my palms are right there, then all I have to do is mark that part right there. So I can just grab it where my toe was and just mark it right here. We call this the walk-in, so I'll just label this WI1. So now I know that I have this distance from the end of the PVC pipe to right there. Okay? Hopefully your distance is shorter than mine. So in general, on all 3 of these assessments, the shorter the distance, the more flexible you are. The first one is the shoulder dislocate. Let me take a step back here and just talk about what that's measuring. It's measuring your dynamic movement of your shoulder girdle, okay? The walk-in is measuring really your entire back side, okay? Basically from your neck all the way down to your ankles. So that's why it's important that you keep your palms and your heels on the ground. You're probably going to feel the limit in your hamstrings, especially around your knees, because you're going to be keeping your legs straight, but some of you may feel it in your low back as you bring your feet in. It's also important to walk your feet in, not walk your hands back on that one. And then the last one you're going to do, you're going to need to set yourself up next to a wall or a mirror or whatever you have at your gym or house. And like the shoulder dislocate, this is going to take a little bit, maybe a few trials for you to get the exact point down. Have your marker with you so that you can mark it. Just set it close to you. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is get your elbows at about 90 degrees. Now, you don't have to get a goniometer out or anything like that. You can ballpark it if you're working alone. If you have a mirror, you can look in the mirror, or if you have a partner, you can kind of have them walk your hands in or out. But you want to be pretty close to a 90-degree bend right here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're a little bit in tight or a little bit out wide, it's not going to make too big of a difference in your results here. What I'd suggest though is that do the best that you can. Then you're going to come up to the wall and you're going to face the wall. And this thing, you can actually see from this angle, you can see how the bar is sitting right on my head. Okay? So I'm going to press the bar up from here, and I'm going to get as close to the wall as I can. And then I'm going to squat down. Now in this case, I'm pretty far from the wall, so I'm actually going to step up just a little bit closer to it. And then I'm going to come on down. Right there, see my nose is touching? So this is about as far as I can go. This is about as vertical as I can get my chest in that bottom position. So what I want to do is just set my PVC pipe down right next to my foot. Actually, I'll show you on this side. So now I'm going to measure from the wall to the arch of my foot right there. So if it's easier for you, you can put it on the inside there and measure to the arch of your foot. Okay, everybody's arch is a little bit different, but just do your best. You know your own body. So my arch is about right there. It's about right there, the peak of my arch. So I'm just going to mark right there. And I'm going to mark that OHS 1 for overhead squat 1. So now I know, what is this measuring? The question is, what is this measuring? And what this tells me is essentially how vertical I can get my chest in the bottom of the squat position. The more vertical I get my chest, the more the muscles in my spine can support weight. So the heavier I can load it, essentially. The heavier I load a squat, the stronger my legs get. The stronger my legs are, the more durable I am overall. So if by the end of this cycle, my overhead squat goes from here to here, that means that my chest has gone from a certain point forward to a slightly less point forward. So I'm a little bit more vertical in the bottom of that squat position. That's what that's telling me. A couple of things that are important for the setup whenever you get here on the wall. The first thing that we talked about was establishing the hand width and then pressing straight up from your head. The other thing that you need to pay attention to is the width of your feet. So you want, and also the position, the angle. Okay, so first of all, the width of my feet is going to be about shoulder width apart. And then you're going to have your feet pointing straight ahead. So I don't want your feet out like this. That's allowing you to compensate for some hip flexibility, or inflexibility. So I want you in nice and tight. So if you're here and you have a hard time getting, if you have tight hips, you're going to have a hard time getting into the full squat position. But you still have to drop down as far as you can, but in order to get down farther, you're going to have to come forward more here. But you have to get in that deep squat position. So if you have tight hips, it's going to be revealed because your chest angle is going to be farther forward. And then you can't go too wide either, because again, that's going to allow you to drop down a little bit more. It's going to give your hips more room to drop down. So we want to keep them just in a natural position here. Feet straight ahead, right under your shoulders, just like this. Okay. So those two things are really important. Now, there's a couple cheats on this. First cheat is I can press up here, assuming that I'm at 90 degrees, and then I can drop down, not push my knees out, and just kind of let my arms come back and bend like this. Well, that's not really true though, because my arms are bent, okay? If I were to straighten it out, you know, I may have to come forward more or something like that. So your elbows have to be straight, first cheat. Second cheat, I can come down here, and as I come down, I can relax my back and let my back arch. But you're never going to look like this on the bottom of the squat here. So you've got to get straight up. Whenever you're straight up, you may find that as you come to straighten up, you may have to bend your elbows a little bit. If so, you've got to straighten out your elbows then. Either way, you can't just relax and rest on your bones in that bottom position, okay? So the first cheat is bending your elbows. Second cheat is letting your back arch. And then the third cheat is simply, as it gets hard because you have tightness in your back or whatever, you just say, oh, I'm pretty straight up, I'm good right here. And just not squatting down all the way. But this isn't really a squat position. We're not really challenging any of the muscles through your hips or in your low back to keep you vertical. So you've got to get your butt as close to the ground as you possibly can. Now, if you've had some sort of knee injury or something in the past that prevents you from squatting really deep, take that into consideration. Don't injure yourself for the sake of this test. But at the same time, don't let bent elbows or a flexed back allow you to get out of getting the most from this and getting the most accurate measurement from this overhead squat. It's kind of the geekiest one in terms of all the setup stuff, so I got to spend a little bit more time on it. So those are the 3 assessments and how you can measure them as we work through here.